Today I wanted to talk about my Imbolc plans for this year. So traditionally Imbolc has a very different approach than what I'm doing this year, and honestly I've talked about this a bit. I'm tired of trying to make the Wheel of the Year work the way that it does typically and just trying to still fit into what like the established way is, because it just doesn't work. The agricultural season that it's associated with does not apply where I live. This is not the time that you're supposed to start on your gardens and getting the land prepared. It still snows most days of the week. So absolutely no way you're gonna be clearing up the, leftover foliage and whatnot from the previous year. There's no sense in starting your seeds right now. No, none of that works for where I live. I also don't follow the Goddess and God Wheel of the Year, where right now she's either resting from childbirth or has been birthed herself. Depends on which stories you follow. And since I don't work with Bridget, it's also her day, but I don't work with her. So you can either try and find the similar one in, for me, it would be the Norse, but again, I don't feel like focusing on that either. And of course, the last one is that a lot of people use this time to work on rededications and whatnot, honoring as if you don't remember when you started your witchcraft journey, this is the time that you're supposed to kind of set aside for it. I know when mine is, so I don't feel the need to, because mine's clear in September, so none of them really have worked for me. So instead, what I have done is that I really analyzed what does this month mean to me, and what does the season as a whole mean? Because really, I like to look at them more in the month that it exists, because that's how our society runs nowadays, and some of them bleed over into others. Yule is definitely from November-ish, definitely mid to late November when it starts to snow and get really cold, all the way up until February, right? It's winter. But January has a very different feel than December, especially as you just exist in the world. So naturally, I've been looking at what does February mean and most of March to me. And while each month is going to have their own specific things that I'm going to focus on, I do want to reevaluate what Imbolc looks like for me. And so I decided, since the majority of Imbolc is in February, what does February mean to me? And that really fell down to what we do nowadays, which I don't think is a problem, to combine stuff. And so it's Valentine's Day. Some people don't love to talk and use Valentine's Day because it's, highly commercialized and blah blah blah. I love gift giving. I love receiving gifts, I love giving gifts. That's my love language, so it's not a problem for me. I'm also a romantic. I don't hate Valentine's Day. So because of that, I started to analyze, what would Imbolc look like if we focus more on that side of this time of the year? Because we're still stuck inside. It's still too cold to go out. And so I decided to focus this Imbolc more on love. Specifically, I will be honoring the goddess Sif. So that is Thor's wife. Honestly, I have found in the little bits that I've worked with her, she is definitely more than just the pretty wife of Thor. And a lot of the things that get attributed to Freya, I find in her, where it's beauty, but it's also the taking care of yourself, and it's the wife energy of you want to look pretty, but you also want to be an independent person, and you need to work on self-love as well as working on your marriage, and let alone if you had kids and stuff. To me, she's very much the archetype of the wife. And being a wife now, I was I think I'm gonna work with her this year. And so my main focus for February is going to be working on self-love as well as working on my marriage. Not that it really has any issues, but just making a point of focusing on it a little bit. Obviously, Valentine's Day's coming around, so of course we'll be doing some kind of a date night, things like that. And plus, honestly, it'll be a very chill date night. We don't have a whole lot of spare money, but at that point, it will still be just a few days into the Hogwarts game being released, so we'll probably just do a stay-in night, get pizza, and play the game, because we're nerds. But the point is, for Imbolc this year, I'm really shifting the focus from, again, not just the single day, but for the season, and really just working with Sif and all of the attributes that I have been finding out working with her in meditations and stuff, for working with her in the aspect of again, this archetype-ish thing of what, for me, represents the wife. Doesn't have to be wife, it could be husband, it could be spouse, whatever. Doesn't even have to be in a marriage setting, it could be in just a dating phase, whatever. And just your relationship with you. She's supposed to be very beautiful, she has gorgeous hair, all of that. She has a lot of things associated with her, so for me, it's just working out better to honor her at this time. Again, when I call to Freya, it doesn't feel like she's this love goddess. Like, some people have that with her, and that's great. For me, not really. And so, yet when I call to Sif, that's the exact energy where you want to look pretty, you want to be primmed and polished and all things feminine, but also all things feminine. Women are very strong creatures, to say the least. And so, like, it's finding that nice balance, and so I decided to switch it up this year for Imbolc. Now, for the actual, like, what I will be doing for Imbolc the day of, I will be doing kind of my usuals. This is the time when a lot of the world around us starts to melt. It kind of just moves into the melting season. It still snows, it still freezes, but we start to slowly get to see the grass again. Not enough that you could do anything with it, but like it's starting to be there. So I'm planning on making the ice candle holder where you, like, it's a little bit of a process, but then you let that melt outside. I did that, what, like 6 years ago now? It's so weird to think 2015 is 6 years. Or more? 8 years ago now? That's better math, 8 years. But I'm also planning on getting a cheesecake, and I want to incorporate strawberries with it. Again, the colors often associated with Imbolc typically are either going to be white and green or white and red, and so I feel like just a cheesecake with like a strawberry glaze on top would be perfect, and have that as the kind of feast part of the ritual, and then probably have some like sparkling cider with it. And then also just doing a lot of inner work and starting on the self-care journey, which includes things like exercising regularly, getting more in tune with my systems and what works for me, which I've been doing, but just making a little bit more of a point of it. And so yeah, I feel like this Imbolc is going to be very different than any of the other ones I've done, because I've always tried to fit into what is like the standard for it, and this year I'm just running off on my own direction, doing my own thing, but I think it's gonna work really well. And so I would love to hear if you are doing something completely off the wall different than what is like the standard for Imbolc this year, or if you're just doing kind of the standard usual. Either way, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. Huge thank you to my patrons. I'll have their names here on the screen. If you'd like to support me and get access to exclusive content, it is patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. Make sure to like and subscribe. I post every single day again, and until next time, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.